hello, and welcome back to Disc Golf Daily. I'm Brian Papa Wolf Raleigh, and I'm excited to talk to you about the Portland Open, presented by Latitude 64. This was a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite Plus event, which means we got some bonus points on the line, and we'll get in the standings later. But first, you should know, as the viewer, we saw 4 rounds, 2 at East, 2 at West, out in Portland. It was pretty exciting to see the different shot shapes around these old firs and these long, lush green open spaces of the ball golf course. Shout out to the cameramen who got amazing B-roll and backdrop shots of all the beautiful mountains and green spaces around that beautiful area. Shout out to the waterfall background that they used a lot on DGN, and I think they should use it a lot personally. I'm pro waterfalls. Just don't go chasing them. Anyways, back to the report. FPO was super cool this weekend. We got to learn a little bit new about a new player. We got to see an old friend come back to the top, and we saw some familiar names duking it out as well. Isn't that fun? Sophia Doneke. Very cool name, very cool player from British Columbia, Canada. Also, believe it or not, went to Harvard and is a doctorate in something that's way smarter than I can pronounce. So congrats to her crashing onto the scene with a neg 10 in round 2, giving her the lead going into round 3, well, tying with Owen Scoggins, I should say, going into round 3, with a familiar name, Paige Pierce, in 3rd, tied with Kat Murch as well. Holland Hanley, Missy Gannon, Rebecca Cox, and Cynthia Ricciotti were your chase card players going into round 3. We had a lot of action, and we saw our familiar friend, Paige Pierce, who's made one heck of a comeback from an injury less than a year ago sustained on a slip and fall at an event. We know about her PT, we know about her recovery, and this week we definitely learned and reinforced her drive to win. Not only that, the drive is her new disc from Discraft as well. We saw her come out in round 3, cut day if you will, with a neg 9, bringing her total to neg 19 for the event. Kat Murch shot a neg 7, bringing herself tied with Owen Scoggins at neg 17, and Sophia Doneke fell down a little bit, still in 4th place. Shout out to Annika Sten, who got herself an ace on coverage on hole 16. That's always really cool to get an ace on coverage. The cut line came into play, and it was really interesting to see DGN's portrayal of the cut line going back and forth, cutting with the live camera on 18 and 16, seeing some extra bonus shots as well. It was really cool to watch that battle. It gave a little bit more excitement in round 3. Normally in a lot of our viewing, we're looking for a winner in round 3. Today we were looking for those that kind of snuck in to the final day of the tournament, crossing that line. There was some familiar names that did not cross that line, unfortunately, did not cash or make the final day, but we'll get into those in a little bit. Coming in today, the final day, we had some weather. It was a little bit wet, a little bit more windy, but we saw someone from the chase card shooting a very, very hot round. In fact, a 10.26 rated round. Holland Hanley jumped up 3 spots to grab herself a podium finish at 2nd. Sophia Doneke makes her presence known on the Disc Golf Pro Tour and grabs herself a podium as well. But that's not the story here. Paige is back, as Steve would want to say. And I'll allow Steve to cut in now and talk about his prediction of Paige Pierce.
The Portland crowd is going to love seeing her in the mix, and she is going to love competing at the highest level again. It's time to turn the page.
I'm sure he just cut in, and if he didn't, enjoy that awkward silence. He made another prediction, too. We're going to have to give him his props in a second. But Paige Pierce is back in the winner's circle, less than a year removed again from an injury. Super exciting for the fan to see that. I know that I'm in a lot of the collectors groups online. It was great to see everybody posting about their excitement. And it was really cool for her to give away the disc at the end. I think that shows a lot about who she is as a person. So congrats to Paige. On the FPO side, we did pretty well getting coverage from a lot of different angles, in my opinion. I thought the course showed really well. And not surprised that the players that shot over their rating the highest also were on the podium. And that's Sophia. Again, she shot 52 points over her rating, nabbing herself a podium finish in third place. Paige Pierce still with the win and still is one of the higher rated FPO players, shot 37 points over her rating. And Emily Weatherman, whose name we've said a lot recently, is having a great beginning part of the season. She shot 33 points over her rating as well. As you know, we're going to have Yang with our Yang, and some of our friends that didn't make the cut or were really close to that cut line. Sayananda, Jessica Weiss, and Holly Finley all shot, or I should say were the highest rated players not to cash. On the MPO side, there was, let's say, less of a battle towards the end, but more of an intriguing storyline with what's going to happen with second place. At one point yesterday, during round 3, there was only a handful of strokes that separated second from 13th, and I mean like 1 or 2 strokes. It was pretty crazy to see what one birdie or one bogey would get you. When it came down to the cut line on the final day, again, DGN did a great job shooting back and forth and letting us see some of those names that snuck in, and some of those names that unfortunately were left behind. But Joey Buckets got himself in right over the line and then followed it up with a great beginning part of his round on Sunday as well, drumming himself up 13 or so spots to finish. But going into the final round, we had some very familiar names at the top of the list. Gannon Buhr, who's had a great season, as we know. Ricky Wysocki, who is one of the most historic players in our game. Calvin Heimberg, who is arguably the player of the year, year in and year out. And then Cole Redalen, one of the young bucks on tour and Disc Golf Pro Tour winner. Again, I think this is the part where Steve cuts in again and says something nice about Cole.
People tend to play well when they go back home. I am looking for Cole Redalen to have his best finish of the year.
Great job, Steve. I hope you did that. If not, enjoy the awkward silence. Moving into the final day, we had a lot of movement. It was always cool to see in the top 10 when DGN would cut to the top 10, different names popping up, popping in, popping out. Paul Macbeth kept popping in higher and higher, trying to get his name up that top 10 list. Andrew Marweed, known more for a, let's say, wood-style game, as some pundits would say, gets himself a couple good rounds and lands himself in the top 10. And the Rookie of the Year from last year, Luke Taylor, as well, lands himself a top 10. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the battle for second place. Yep, Gannon Buhr walked into the final round with a 10-stroke lead. We all kind of knew that it was going to walk in. The only drama that he was trying to create, or at least DGN was trying to create, was would he set the record for biggest margin of victory in a Disc Golf Pro Tour or Elite event. Well, he didn't, but it was really cool to see how close it got. At one point, they were within 5, but then Gannon ended up winning by 8. But the real battle was for second place. Cole Redalen and Richard, a.k.a. Ricky Wysocki, battled non-stop. Cole got the first birdie, but then followed it up with a bogey, but then got the first string of birdies in a row. They were up, down, left, right. Unfortunately, on the final hole, Ricky grabs himself a double bogey, giving Cole, the local boy from Oregon, the silver, if you will, second place, and Ricky grabbed himself a third place. Aaron Gossage and Isaac Robertson round out your top 5. The highest rated players, the player that shot highest over his rating, shocker, Gannon Buhr, only shot 21 points over his rating and yet still took first place. If you're really into that rating versus where they place thing, check out Calvin Heimberg, who took 6th but shot under his rating, and Paul, who took 7th and shot his exact rating. Pretty crazy there. Austin Turner shot 20 points over his rating, and Justin Rosick also shot 20 points over his rating. The highest rated players to miss cash, last year's winner, Adam Hammes, Vinyl Makula, and Chris Clemens. As far as the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings go, I hit refresh right now as I am doing this, and boom, we see them. They're loading them in, but I don't have an update.
Thank you, Brian. I've got it from here. As you told me, Paige was in 26th coming into the Portland Open. She moves up to 14th with the 125 points earned. Interestingly enough, she now has 420 points. Looking at the top of the ladies' charts, Evelina Salonen, 878 points. Owen Scoggins, 875 points. Holland Hanley, 866 points. Wow, that is a battle. Missy Gannon, 846. And then Kristen Tata at 743 points. We can't wait to see you on the course again, Kristen. Please keep healing. And on the men's side, Gannon Buhr, with that 125 points, extends his lead. Actually, yeah, I think he took over first. He now has 797 points to Anthony Barella's 677. So Gannon passed Anthony and then went another 100 points. Nicholas Antala, 652. Ricky Wysocki, 649. Calvin Heimberg, 647. So after Gannon, it is very, very close in the race for second. That sounds familiar to something I watched this weekend. Back to you, Brian.
When it comes to the Bohr score, it was pretty interesting to look back and forth between East and West. In general, we saw, I would say, more exciting holes in West, believe it or not, and maybe a little bit crazier scoring spread holes on East. But in general, it looks pretty good across the board. A lot of what we would say here, passable scores for the Bohr score. I will note from the MPO side, for the last 2 days, hole 13, really a large amount of pars, which doesn't make it too exciting from the spectator standpoint and the viewer standpoint's pleasure. So keep an eye on that going forward. In general, I want to congrats Steve on some great predictions for this week. Did you know that we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're also on X? We have an AOL email, so that should cover the wide spectrum as well. Just DG Daily, or Disc Golf Daily, at AOL.com for our email. And let me know in the comments of our Facebook post. Do you like the split course, meaning East and West in this case, or would you rather see them all play the same course for 3 rounds, or the split day 4-round event? Until next time, keep it in the fairway.